This video is part 2, inverse functions and one-to-one functions. Specifically, we'll talk about how the graphs of functions and their inverses are related and how to find the inverse of a function. So, in the previous video, we looked at how the function f of x equals x squared and f inverse of x is the square root of x are inverse functions. We did also notice that we needed to restrict this domain for our square to 0 to infinity so that the function was 1 to 1. So in this picture, this blue graph is the square root of x, and this red graph is x squared. And they are inverses. So this one's going to be the inverse. And what you should notice is that these are reflections over this dotted line here, which is the line y equals x. It turns out that the graph of a relation and its inverse are always reflections of each other across the line y equals x. And typically we're only working with functions, which of course are just special relations. So how do we find the inverse of a function? Well, first we need to check that our function is a one-to-one function on the entire domain. If it's not one-to-one, then we restrict the domain, like we just did previously, into an appropriate set of the real numbers. The next thing we do is we replace f of x with y. Then we interchange the x and the y. We solve for y, and then we replace f inverse in place of the y. So I like to call number 1, check to make sure that it's 1 to 1. And for number 2, I call it the switcheroo, because we're going to switch those two. So here we go. We're going to do some examples. On this first example, we want to make sure that we find the inverse. We state the domain of the function and of the inverse, and then graph the function on the same set of axes. So I'm going to start here by taking a look at this part A. F of x is 2x plus 2. Well, we know that this is linear, and we know that it's going to cross at 2 and have a slope of up 2 over 1. And if I connect those dots, I get a line that looks something like this. This is our f of x. Now, if I wanted to find the inverse, I want to first make sure that this is 1 to 1. And this does, in fact, passes the horizontal line test. So we know that it is 1 to 1. And the next thing we do is we put the y in for the f of x. We switch the x and the y, so we get x equals 2y plus 2. And then we solve for the y. So I'm going to subtract 2, and then I'm going to divide by 2. And I'm going to divide each of these by 2. You'll see why here. We're going to get y equals 1/2 x minus 1. So our inverse is 1/2 x minus 1. So let's plot that. If I cross at minus 1 and I go up 1 and over 2, up 1 over 2, and so on, I get this line. And you'll notice that this is in fact a reflection over that dotted line. So let's do this we'll call our f of x this red function, and we know that the domain of the red function is all real numbers, and the range is also all real numbers. When we then find the domain and the range of the inverse function, we need only switch the domain and the range. So this domain becomes this range and so on. So this is also minus infinity to infinity, and the range is minus infinity to infinity. Our next example is a quadratic, x squared plus 2, which would be a basic parabola shifted up 2 units. And we have this parabola. Now we can see right away that this parabola does not pass the horizontal line test, so it's not 1-to-1. So what we're going to do is we're going to restrict this domain as it states up here, 0 to infinity. So I'm only going to look at this half of the parabola. So our domain here is 0 to infinity, and from the picture you can see that our range is 2 to infinity. So let's find the inverse function. We're going to put the y in for the f of x. We're going to switch the x and the y. And then we're going to solve for y. So I'm going to subtract 2. And then I'll take the square root. And I technically should take the positive and the negative square root, but let's talk about that for a second. A positive square root is going to look like this, shifted to the right 2. The negative portion, the negative one would be down here, and that is not that reflection there. So we want the positive root. So we'll get rid of that bit there, and we'll get rid of that minus sign there. All right, so our inverse function, f inverse, is the square root of x minus 2. The domain of this function is 2 to infinity, and the range of this function is 0 to infinity. And you can see that that is just the domain and range of the function, but we've switched the roles. For our third example, we have f of x equals the quantity x plus 3 cubed. This particular one is going to be a cubic function, which is like a little wiggle, shifted to the left 3. So this is going to have a shape that kind of looks like this. And we can see that the horizontal line test will pass. So this is 1-to-1. So we've checked that it was 1-to-1. We're going to replace the y with the f of x. We're going to switch the x and the y. And then we'll solve for y. So I'm going to take the cube root of x, and then I will subtract 3. And we need to call this our inverse. So f inverse of x is the cube root of x minus 3. That's going to look like a cube root shifted down 3. And it will look something like this. Notice again that it's the reflection over that line y equals x. So the domain of this original function was all real numbers. You can see that on the graph. And the range is also all real numbers. And our domain for our inverse function is also all real numbers. And the range is all real numbers. can we use a table to find not only function values, but also inverse function values? So here we have a table that has x values, those are our inputs, and f of x values are outputs. And we would like to know what is the function value at 1. So here's my x value of 1, and I can see that the function value at 1 is 0. So if x is 1, y is 0. The function value at 3 is going to be a 4. So what do we mean when we talk about the inverse function? Well, when I say the inverse function of 9, what I'm saying is, where did 9 come from? So I'm looking now at these y values and I say, well, 9 will going to take me back to 8. And a y value of 9 here is going to take me back to 7. So let's look at another example. Here we have a car that travels at a constant speed of 50 miles an hour. The distance that the car travels in miles is a function of time, t, in hours, given by d of t equals 50t. So this is the distance that depends on the time. Find the inverse function by expressing time in terms of the distance traveled, and call this function t of d. So I'm going to start just with d equals 50t and solve for t. So I'm going to get d over 50 equals t. So now we have our function. The time, based on the distance traveled, is the distance divided by 50. So when I say t of 180, I'm going to put our 180 in, and I should get 3.6. So what does it mean? It means a distance of 180 miles will be traveled in 3.6 hours, because this is time based on the distance. Here are just a couple of general questions that we should understand about inverses. Is there a function that is equal to its own inverse? The answer there is yes. I can give you a couple of examples. The most obvious example is the line y equals x. If you switch the x and the y, you get y equals x. Here's another example. This graph is the graph y equals 1 over x. And you can see that if I reflect this over that 45-degree line, that I would get the exact same graph. So if we went through the process of finding the inverse here, I would switch the x and the y. Cross multiplying, I get xy equals 1. And then dividing, solving for y again, I get 1 over x. So in this particular case, if this is my function, this is my inverse function. The second question here is it possible for a function to have more than one inverse? The answer there is no. The whole idea of an inverse is that if we have a function that takes this domain to this range, it has to be 1 to 1. In other words, every element in this domain has to go to only one element in the range. And therefore, when I talk about the inverse function, everything in this domain has to come from everything in this range. That's the idea of one-to-one, and so no, there is only one inverse for a function. That concludes part 2 of this video.